Come on, come on, go, go.
Mine says
Well,
we're up.
huh?
Mine says we're live.
Mine says we're live now. Hey guys, I'm Chad Brock.
And I'm Zach Bailiff.
Welcome to this week's edition of the Orion podcast. And notice I went slower there because I had to find the yeah. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Tuesday night edition of the Orion podcast. Powered by Jackson Kayak. Visit us for all your coolers and kayak needs at jacksonkayak.com. Thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out with us, everybody. Feel better about that, Zach?
That was smooth. I like it.
That was smooth. Oh, maybe one of these days we'll knock this intro thing out of the park. But until then, we're just going to keep trying. We're the podcast that's going to keep trying. We're going to keep telling cooler. We're going to be the cooler podcast that tells cooler stories.
We're the little podcast that could.
We're a little podcast that could. We've made it all the way to 13 episodes. This is episode 13.
Yeah.
13th
Lucky
edition.
13.
So
We're here.
I don't know if that's good or bad for our guest that he's episode 13. I hope we don't jinx anybody. I don't want anybody to like come on the Orion podcast and it turn into like being on the Madden football cover where you like have the worst season ever and end up in a coma in the hospital or
We need optimism.
optimism. I'm drinking out of for our guest tonight. I'm drinking out of my Del Hollow Lake tumbler tonight, special edition, no salt life, unsalted life, as it says down there in the fantastic land of Tennessee. So anyway, yeah, slow weekend on my end. I ain't got nothing to talk about. I didn't go fishing. I didn't go. I didn't. It was 100 degrees, man. So
it was warm. We got a little bit of weather this weekend. Finally got some much needed rain. So I spent a couple hours down here in the basement tweaking and tuning on bows, trying to get them both feeling as close to the same as I could. I've got a 33-inch axle and a 30-inch shorter axle bow this year. So first year I've really had two that are different. Gives you quite a bit different string angles. So just changing D loops, moving peeps, and trying to get them to feel as close to the same as I can before I go outside and start getting sight tapes built and getting them dialed in.
So you've moved over to hunting out of the saddle.
Yeah.
Rather than a tree stand. How does the bow length change or differ? Does it matter?
Bow length in a tree has never really bothered me, and I'm always up until Hoyt moved their front and sidebar stabilizer positions last year to a lower position. I'd always ran like a 12 to 15-inch front bar and a 10 to 12-inch sidebar. So even running that in a tree never really, felt cumbersome to me. The saddle I feel like is probably opened up shot opportunities a little bit as far as what's behind you and kind of using the tree that you're on for a little bit of cover. It does take a little more discipline to sit still because you are suspended and leaning on a rope. So you tend to kind of just want to sway a little bit every now and then in the wind.
Yeah, I'd be asleep swaying.
Well, I've taken a nap or two in the saddle, that's for sure. Those 13-hour sits in the saddle, just tuck up against the tree and
get up there and it's all rockabye baby.
Yes, absolutely. Those windy days when the tree starts rocking, you just kind of, at 1 to 2 p.m., there's probably nothing going on, so just shut my eyes for a little bit.
It's a good place to sleep, man.
Some of the best naps I've ever taken were in tree stands.
I guarantee it. Guarantee it. And they're even better when it's cold, which is what's weird.
Yeah, I get all bundled up in my Sherpa lining and just lay my head over and close my eyes for a bit. But no, I'm excited. I got 2 good bows this year, so I'm excited to get the tapes on them and start shooting some distance.
I'm ready to use my camera. I owe you a few pictures, so I gotta up my game.
Yeah,
but we have a very cool guest tonight that he's kind of into something that we kind of have he's got a bigger passion and I have an intrigue, I guess would be the best way to put it, over catching big inland stripers. And he is also, if you've called into Jackson Kayak and talked to customer service, there's a high probability that you may have talked to this guy. He started off at Jackson Kayak on the production floor building boats. Probably built my big rig. And now he's in our customer service department, and he is one heck of a fisherman. Without further ado, what's up, Charlie?
What's up?
How we doing, sir?
Good. That was a sweet intro. I'm not sure if I can follow that.
Well,
we like to pump up folks' tires with a lot of accolades, make them feel nice and warm.
I mean, we call James a legend and everything.
Oh, geez. Well, gosh, now I know you're liars.
It's a podcast. That's what you're supposed to do. That's what we're supposed to do on podcasts. Well, man, you've had an interesting week, dude. You are fresh back from ICAST.
Yeah, I am beat.
I can imagine. We appreciate you taking the time out tonight after being gone all last week and then coming on the podcast tonight when you could clearly probably use a nap.
Yeah. Naps, it's a precious commodity, especially with 2 kids running around. No, it's funny because these shows are fun and all, and when if you don't work them, you have a different perception. But they're tough. There's a lot of chaos, a lot of time on your feet. You make have a lot of good interactions, but it's a whole bunch of fun, but it's a whole lot more work for sure. Especially when you got to drive. I drove. Yeah, it's supposed to be a 9-hour drive, but between going through in Atlanta into Orlando, man, it ended up being a 13-hour drive.
And you had some pretty good company on the ride.
Yeah, Bridget Howard,
Bridget, Aunt B was in
Valet.
there. Yeah,
Bridget Valet now.
Yeah, Aunt B, as we call her in the marketing department. So being at ICAST, give us a rundown. Favorite new product that you got a scope from ICAST.
Oh man, it's funny. I've been following these guys here, G-Rat Baits, and they make this jig head now. It's a swim bait jig with a lip called the Fighting Fish. 3/4 ounce, a bunch of different colors. Got a pretty long shank hook, and you can attach, flukes, swim baits, soft plastic swim baits. But there's also keepers on the top and the bottom for skirts, so you can fish it. It's sinking, sinks moderate to fast, so you can work it like a jig, or you can crank it, man. It doesn't come out until later this fall, so I'm really eager to get my hands on it, because I know what these will do. These will hunt, man. So I'm excited to see him coming out with that.
Very nice.
Sounds like a pretty cool product.
Absolutely. Now, as we mentioned before, we always like to go through the progression of our guest, if you will. One of the first questions that we typically ask is, how did you get started? How did your journey in the outdoors begin?
Well, man, of course, growing up, my dad, was always a big hunter, big fisherman. started out there, like a lot of us do. Just I grew up in Texas, so there's a lot of farm ponds. You had a lot of farm buddies, so I got kind of spoiled. Some of my fondest memories was, stepping on the bank of a farm pond and seeing this push, dude. I mean, on both sides of you, 400 yards, all these bats pushed in the middle, and it was one of those where you can cast a stick with hooks on it, and the bass would eat it. But yeah, just growing up, fishing as a kid, I never left it, now I'm addicted more than ever. I'm finding the passion turning into a crutch almost. But
now, how'd the road lead you to Jackson Kayak?
Well, that was an accident, really. I lost my job before coming to Jackson unexpectedly, and of course, my daughter wasn't born yet, but my son was around, and he I think he was 5 or 6 at the time, and I wasn't going to wait around for a job, so I put out all these feelers, and excuse me. And Jackson was the first one that reached back out to me, and it's kind of funny. It was sort of a crude way of hiring. Dave G was the HR manager back then, and essentially he stalked me on Facebook. He was like, "All right, you're a family guy. You hunt and fish. You don't post dumb pictures. Partying. On Facebook, it's all either outdoor adventure pictures or family pictures." So my application was in for about a half hour before he called me back. I was like, "Hey, we want you to come in for an interview." That's okay, cool. So, I went in for the interview. What I thought was going to be an interview, and it ended up being an orientation. I was like, "All right, here we go." And he actually wanted me to work. That was on a Thursday, and he actually wanted me to work that following Monday. But we had a family trip planned that week, so he gave me a week, and I started out building boats. So.
Yeah, and as now being the customer service guy, you actually, when you started building, you've pretty much built everything that our previous lines. You've pretty much built everything that we made there for a while.
Yeah, everything up until 2019. So everything up until when I think the Mayfly was the last newest boat that I built. So just about everything. It was fun, man. I really, really enjoyed it.
And that obviously gives you a good all that hands-on experiences helps you with your new job, customer service.
And so I was sort of a shoo-in when it came to that. And it's funny because they tried to get me in the office, a few times. I was like, "No, I don't want to do that," because I've done manual labor my whole life. I always enjoyed working with my hands and building stuff. And when they approached me, I just kept pushing it down because I was like, "No, I want to be out here with the tools and the sweat," and because it's really cool making those boats. It's I thought it was going to be an assembly line when I first applied. But it's not. It's really, sort of a craft job. One person gets a boat and they build it from bow to stern. The only place it goes after that is quality control and shipping, then off to the customer or dealer. So you really got a sense of pride when you built those boats because it was your baby, from start to finish. So I really, really enjoyed it. But I was already, as a builder and a fisherman, I was already on the pages. Kind of doing damage control, just because I was, I love the company and I was so prideful about to get on there and answer people's questions if I could. And that was, sort of noticed. So when those job openings came open in the office, people kept pinging me, and finally it took the CEO to come down and like, "Hey, they really want you in there. We want you to look into this." So here I am.
Yeah, and we couldn't ask for a better guy. We've got a few good guys that have graced our customer service department. Matt Cunningham, and we've got Tyler. We've got some good dudes that have been in that position.
Again, she's a guru. Amy's awesome. Matt Jameson, he's our whitewater and Excel spreadsheet magician. It's that's the other part. That's kind of a saving grace and a big motivator is nobody works harder than anybody else in there. Everybody's absolutely getting it. If anybody ever has a cushion, they're going to the next person and saying, "Hey, I've got a little bit of space. What do you got for me?" And that's kind of unseen in a lot of places you work because there's always that one person where you're like, "Man, why am I working harder than that person? What's the deal?"
Right.
But this is the first place where I've worked where I've never felt that way. It's really cool. It makes me want to work harder for sure.
And that's a really good testament to everybody in our office. I mean, I work here in Indiana, but when I call in and I have to talk to somebody or we're in a meeting or whatever, everybody's just genuinely nice. And you can attest to this a little bit more. Everybody has it's a family. It really is.
Yeah, and and that's a cool thing. We're pretty big. We sell international, all over the world. But to walk in, those doors every day, it still feels like a mom and pop shop. I walk in. If sometimes I bring the kids in if they have to come in. My dog, the ladies will kick off their shoes. Literally, it's we get stuff done, but it's a pretty laid back environment. Like I said, there's never any conflict. And I think that's why you guys are seeing what you see. That I wouldn't say it's stress free. Obviously, there's stressors. There's always stressors in the work environment, but it's more laid back, and that sort of translates to the customers because we're not as high strung from workplace drama or stuff like that. So it's pretty cool.
Well, now being that you work at the factory, you do get to put your hands on some pretty cool toys that might come down the R&D pipeline. You get to run them through the ringer here and there. What's been some of your favorite boats that have come out of the boats that have come out of the shop?
Yeah, it was my thumbnail for this podcast. That blue sky. There's a bunch of boats. The Cruise HD, of course, it's money for rivers, but just sheer enjoyment and just being able to be on it, forever. The blue sky, I hunt and fish out of it. And it's funny that's one of the first ones that I really, tested and prototyped. Because a lot of the other ones, were either tested, before me or, tested by somebody else, not the team members. But that blue sky came out right after I came into the office. I actually came out right before. I actually helped build the first blue sky. Me and a handful of other guys. And it's funny. It took us like 5 hours to build that first one because we didn't know what we were doing.
Right.
It's kind of funny because I saw the thing and I was like, "That's really cool," but is it too unique?
Right.
But here we are, many years later. But I took that prototype out, and Brad Cisco was like, "Hey, put this on the water. Don't abuse it by any means, but use it. Use it like you're going to use it." And I took it down here below the dam, and the walleye bite was particularly good. It was one of those nights where every 4 or 5 casts I was setting the hook every single time. And obviously I forgot about the time, but next thing I know, the sun's coming back up. Holy crap! I look at my phone, and I'd been on that thing for 15 hours straight.
Wow.
Yeah. Just bouncing around right below the dam, and the fact that it's so stable and being able to stand up, stretch my legs, is a big reason I forgot that I was out there that long, because it took down the fatigue nearly completely. Obviously I was tired from sleep deprivation, but my back wasn't sore, my hips didn't hurt.
And that's one of the cool things about the blue sky. I mean, you think about kayaks, and sometimes when you're in the seat for a long time, you see a lot of guys putting the kayak cushions and different things on. It really does. Any kayak, it doesn't matter which brand it is. It does pinch your hips a lot in the seats, but when you're up and you're elevated in the blue sky, you're more relaxed with your legs down, and it really does offer something that's a little bit more comfortable, especially for people that may have trouble getting up and down. Anyway, it's a really cool platform.
Yeah, it looks more comparable to kind of sitting in a chair versus kind of sitting on the floor and pedaling out in front of you.
Yeah. But so 15 hours on the river.
That's a long one.
Was the Orion full? That's my question.
No, well, I mean, I caught my limit, but actually, I kept one short of my limit, so I keep fishing. Yeah, get the go hook one. When the sun came up, I finally finished it off and went home. And that part of that's one of my favorite spots to go. If someone ever said, $1 million, catch a fish, pick anywhere, that's where I would go. It's just there's so many species. There's walleye down there,
muskie.
Actually, there's muskie on the upper end. So down there's no muskie, but walleye, stripers, sturgeon, catfish, all varieties. Your black bass, all varieties of the 3 varieties of trout here, brooks, browns, and rainbows. I mean, just everything is down there. I've not been skunked below at Center Hill Dam. Wow. I've not been skunked. As long as I'm right there below the dam, I haven't been skunked in about 3 or 4 years.
Better knock on wood, dude. The year's like the 13th episode. I mean, we might have. We just Madden covered you. Oh my gosh!
I'm gonna sink my boat and come out there. No, it's just it's a great fishery, and it's funny. Part of the reason that happens is because I load pretty heavy, which is another good thing about that blue sky. You can load down pretty heavy. And that happened because one year, they were running a bunch of water, and me and my buddy went up there with trout gear, and he looked over the rail and he was like, "Did you bring your big pole?" I was like, "No, why?" And, he kind of chuckled and pointed over the railing. So I went over there and stuck my head over, and there were 3 guys with big surf rods, and 2 of them had them doubled over. They were fighting, big, 40-inch stripers, and they landed those. They cast it 5 or 6 more times, set the hook again, cast it 5 or 6 more times, set the hook again, and we watched them do that for about 2 hours. Of course, the trout weren't hitting because they were running for their lives. So all we could do was watch. But ever since then, I told myself I will never get caught again. So I'll bring everything from an ultralight all the way up to, striper gear. More often than not, I catch fish.
And talking about the multiple species, Christine Fisher's one of them that really caught my eye doing it down at the Wolf Creek Dam on Lake Cumberland, and really showcasing some of those trout and different things. And the more that I explored that, it was like, it's amazing. These hydroelectric dams that are on the Cumberland River in this area, Dale Hollow, Center Hill, all of them pretty much down that line. You've got stripers, you've got trout, and they don't stay small by no means.
No, it's and it's kind of insane. It's just there's a super oxygenated, because they consistently run water, and the bait fish they just pile up. I was pedaling my blue sky, and I thought I hit debris, and it was a pile of shad. It was a big school of shad swimming by me.
Jeez.
And when I say it's a big school, I mean it took them a good minute and a half to clear my boat.
Wow.
And once there were 2 or 3 stripers, shadowing those fish, and it's funny because they're the ones at the dam, unless they're just blasting water and churning up the bait. When the water's slack, it's near impossible to catch those fish because they're just cruising behind that that ball of bait. When they're hungry, they just pick them off and keep on swimming.
Now, kind of walk us through. There's a lot of people. I mean, obviously, when you're fishing below these dams, it can be risky business.
Yeah.
Kind of walk people through the steps that you take and how you guys really go about it, and some of these big fat baits you guys are throwing down there.
So the first thing I do, regardless of the river I'm in, is I'll float it. I'll float it during the day. If I'm going to do a float, I'll make sure to float that stretch during the day first, because with them generating, it changes every season. If the waters, the flood waters get real bad up on top of the lake, they'll open, every sluice and every gate and open the generators wide open, and it blows out that river, and there's new blowdowns and everything else. So it can get pretty dangerous if you're not familiar with it. So that's the most important part is getting on the river when you can see where things are. That's the first thing, and second is to pay attention to the generation before you get on the water. Mainly for safety, because even if that river, that water can get to scooting pretty quick, and it's deceiving. It's deceiving to be on the water and kind of see how fast it moves, because it doesn't seem like it's moving that fast. But as soon as you get your paddle in the water, you start digging. You're like, holy cow! This water's really moving. So paying attention to that, for safety first and foremost, and then for the fishing aspect, because there's parts of these rivers where the fish will feed heavy during falling water, and then there's other parts of the rivers where they'll lay up in holes when the water is bottomed out. It's a lot. There's a lot of scouting, and not just preseason, just consistently scouting, on a trip to trip basis, because these rivers change so much, and the fish, of course, change so much. You got to deal with their pre-spawn, spawn, post-spawn pattern, and then add in tons of water fluctuation.
Oh yeah.
So it's we grind, the guys that are catching him grind pretty hard when we're catching these fish. Of course, we don't post the pictures of us wandering around in the dark, not catching anything. You guys don't see that part.
Well, yeah, we need to film that part one of these days. I'd like to. Me and Zach would both probably like to come down and film that and get you guys wandering around in the dark and just make something cool out of it.
Yeah, no, that'd be sweet. We need some night vision equipment.
Don't threaten us with a good time. We'll buy it.
I mean, really, I wanted to film, but all I have are bright lights, and those fish are gone.
Oh yeah,
they're light shy.
Now, some of the different places, I mean, like you're talking about, I know Cumberland, you can look at the Cumberland River. One of the places we go in Burkesville, Kentucky, just north of you guys, you can really check the gauges and you can check the river weather, and you can see large spikes, and you kind of learn. I mean, anybody that's listening or watching, that river weather, water weather, I don't remember what the website's called. It's one of the two. Just Google it. You'll find it. And then the TVA also puts out, they've got an app that'll show you any lake that's on the TVA chain that you might be interested in fishing the river below the dams. And it will give you the generation schedule, which is not always 100%, by the way.
Yeah, it's subject to change for sure.
Very much. And then check the river weather. You can really see through the week, as the week progresses, the highs and the lows of the river. You can kind of start looking at the time and go, okay, it's at its lowest here, and it's going to start rising here. This is probably when I need to either bail out or when I need to be there.
Yeah,
and
of course, that all changes depending on where you are on the river. How
absolutely
far you are from the dam, and like you said, it's subject to change. So that's another thing about these trips is they're sporadic. And a lot of them are sort of on the fly. You can plan, you can plan the weekend you're going to go. But you can't hardly ever plan the time you're going to go. because those generation schedules don't update until 24 hours before, the day of. So you gotta, say, hey, I'm gonna go Saturday. I don't know what time yet, but I'm gonna go Saturday. It might be 3 a.m, or it might be sunrise, or it might be 2 p.m. And that's another thing that's cool about these stripers. So a lot of these, river systems, typical striper fishing, especially in big lakes. The whole stigma is once the sun's high, they shut down. They're done.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's because, of course, I mean, you see this with black bass too. It's just the river weather, I guess, so to speak, and it's different. Their behavior is different. So we've found fish, at noon before, and then hooked up. So that's another cool thing about fishing river stripers is their behavior is different. So you gotta kind of learn a little bit different. You can't always rely on what you read when it comes to this fish. You gotta get out there and do it yourself.
Yeah, and my first experience, my first experience, I went to last year. I took a guide trip to Lake Cumberland. I wanted to go catch one. I hadn't checked that box yet, so I take off to Lake Cumberland, and it was neat. And anybody that's that just wants to get out there and go on a guided trip or whatever, Lake Cumberland is a great place to do that. They've got a phenomenal fishery. If you're into this kind of thing, a guided trip is where you're. Lake Cumberland is a great place. But for me, it was neat to watch and learn what my guide was doing. We had 9 rods out, and obviously planer boards, downriggers, all kinds of different things. And to see him work and how he handled everything on the lake side of it was really cool. I mean, we would be cruising along, and being a black bass fisherman, I was able to watch the sonar and really tell, like, okay, this is getting ready to go down. You'd see the big glob, and it seemed like every time we'd hook up, I mean, they knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
For me, as a reel and cast fisherman, I'm still not satisfied. I have to. It was like I checked the box, but I only got halfway down, and I didn't full check it yet. I feel like I need to do it for my kayak.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I think part of it's the species too, man. It is. It's because I was thinking that I'd be able to get away from them this year, because we, of course, I've been chasing them pretty hard, and we did some filming for the Road Trip Angler.
Yep.
With Jameson Redding about 2 months ago. So I was kind of it was about 3 months ago. It was a little bit early for stripers, but we fished a lake for black bass, and so I was I was forced to fish, if that's even possible, but sort of forced to fish for a different species, and I was like, this is kind of fun. My arm doesn't hurt, my back isn't sore. I might get back into black bass fishing, and I got back on the big river and set the hook on a 42-pound striper. I was like, nope.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's the first time. This is the first year. So I moved to Tennessee in 2007. This is the first year in 15 years that I didn't turkey hunt.
Oh wow.
Because I was too hung up on chasing stripers in the spring. So
wow,
something. Yeah.
When you talk about the arm soreness and your back soreness, like, what's it like managing the boat in current with a 42-pound fish on the line?
It's actually not bad, because the fish is generally either swimming, upstream or downstream, so you're staying in line with the current. So you're not really going to get sideways or anything like that. The only thing is you got to carry pretty stout gear, because being in those rivers, they know where every tree is, and that's the first thing. That's the first thing they're going to, is they're finding that tree, and they're I mean, you set the hook on one of these stripers, and your drag is smoking for a good 30. Actually, the last one I set the hook on, it smoked my drag for about literally a minute straight, and everything went slack. And I brought I was using a big Janko long shank hook, and I brought it back. And I've caught mid 40, 50 pound stripers, and I've never had one straighten the hook, and that one straightened my hook. So I like to think that it was a pretty big fish. It could have been the combination of it and current, but I've never had one straighten my hook. Well, that's what they do, man. They go berserk. They turn and they go. That's the only thing when you're fishing out of a kayak, is to get them away from those trees. Which is kind of funny because that thumbnail you posted. So that was my first. Because I guess you can't really call it a kayak. That was the first a striper I caught out of a small personal watercraft. Out of that blue sky. And just typical striper. I set the hook, and it's with my buddy Chris Bryant. He's a phenomenal striper fisherman. But he took me out, and I it's funny, he hooked up, and he goes, "Cast right there." I casted, and 2 cranks, and I was on, but it went straight into a tree. And I had my son with me. He was tied up in the skipper. He was tied up to the blue sky, and I fought it for maybe 10, 15 seconds, and then it just went heavy. And I was like, crap. And I sat there, and I started doing one of those, and it was just dead weight. And I was like, man, I'm in a tree. So I pedal upstream past the tree, and I'm going to come back down on top of the tree to try to get my lure back. I figure it's over with. And I have my headlamp on, and I get about 10 yards from the tree, and about 3 feet down, I see this silver thing doing one of these. And I'm using a big redfin, a big 7-inch redfin, and the front treble is a tree, and the back treble is in the fish's mouth. And I'm like, what do I do? So I open the spool up on the reel, and I set it in the blue sky. And I have Silas hop onto the blue sky and get on the front porch. Well, my son Silas, and have him lay on the deck and hug. So there's the top of the stump sticking out of the water, like pieces of roots and stuff. I have him lay on his belly and hug the stump, and I lay on my belly, and I reach down probably about 3 feet, and it's funny because Chris is over there, and he's watching me. And all he can picture is moving water, 20, 30 pound fish, treble hooks, 3 feet down. And he's going, no. And I've got the pliers, and I'm somewhere below the water line, trying not to suck water because my face is touching the water. And I somehow managed to unhook this fish and give it a death grip and pull it out of the water.
Oh my gosh.
That was like the dumbest and sort of one of the craziest things I've ever seen. I was like, dude, I wasn't losing my first kayak striper.
Makes for a good story anyhow.
Yeah, that was a fun one for sure.
Oh my gosh. And talking about how these things fight, man. You get cold chills, honest to goodness, just talking about them. Because they dive, man. They dive so hard. When they start to come to the boat, it's like, I've caught largemouth and smallmouth, and they dive right at the boat, but no, not like this.
Yeah,
it's like,
and of course, the stripers you caught were in the lake, right?
Yeah.
So just like black bass, compare a black bass in the lake and compare to one in the river. That's kind of the comparison you get. We kind of call the ones in the lake slops because they're big, heavy, and they make these pretty decent runs. But the ones in these small rivers are a lot more athletic. Of course, again, there's moving water.
Yeah, they're stronger.
Yeah, they're stronger because they're used to that current, and also it's more oxygenated, so they have more energy.
And it's absolutely like this time of year, especially down in Tennessee. And we're We get hot here in southern Indiana, humidity 90s, but you guys are a little bit warmer down there and the humidity is a little bit thicker. If you've never fished in one of these rivers coming out of these deep lakes, it's like it's like air conditioning while you're fishing. It's spectacular.
Yeah, it's nice for sure.
Yeah, I mean,
you get cold at night sometimes.
I can imagine. Yeah. I've been out there and you see the water will be like 60. You look at your fish finder and the water on the Cumberland River is like 65, 66. And then like you start getting the flow and you just see that temperature just going boom, 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 and it drops quick.
Yeah. That's so that's another, another reason it's so important to get out there before in the daylight before you make a float for an actual night, for an actual trip, night trip is where that warm air is hitting that cold water, the visibility is like 10 feet. Like you cannot see where you're going. Me and Matt Cunningham went out, and I went against my own advice, and I thought I knew the river, as well, better than I did, and we got out. It was super foggy, and we could hear fish blowing up. And it sounds like bowling balls being dropped in the water. I did hook up, with one that night after we pulled over, but we couldn't float and fish. It was way too sketchy. Luckily, you could hear the strainers coming up, 50 yards, 100 yards away in some spots. It was way too dangerous to float and fish. So we missed a lot of good opportunities. We're floating past fish that were blowing up, right next to us. But river safety is huge when it comes to, in general, but when it comes to doing something like that, because fighting a fish in the dark, in the fog that big, it could get hairy pretty quick.
And I would imagine so.
I think that's why I keep going back. I think it's like I've become an adrenaline junkie, and I wait for fishing.
Well, and you just mentioned a guy that can kind of take you there. There is legend in Tennessee that Matt Cunningham will take you on some of the wildest, most dragon boat trips that you've ever been on.
Yeah, they're beautiful.
That's the best Matt Cunningham story.
Dude, you ask anybody. I'm not sure. I don't know if it's short and his muscles are compact or what, but that dude will out paddle just about anybody. Like I don't understand what it is. He's insane. But let me see if I can find a picture here. Kind of gives you like sort of the epitome of a Matt Cunningham trip. He put me on this drag that was just insane.
Chris Funk says Dead Armadillo Creek with Cunningham was legendary.
So I don't know if you can see that. So
yeah.
That's me.
Oh wow.
And like the water is like back there somewhere.
Yeah.
Matt's standing here and the water's still like another 50 yards, like behind him. He's the epitome of exploratory fishing. And it pays off, man. He'll find these holes that are a pain to get to. But next year, you're casting and you're setting the hook on a fish every cast. It's like he took me to a creek. Not quite as hard to get to as that, but took me to a creek off of Center Hill that when it floods, it has the potential to become just insane. And we got back there, and I was catching a few dragon Ned rigs, but where the water had flooded, it flooded into the banks and into the woods. There's stuff blowing up. I'm like, man, I didn't have any frogs with me. I didn't have anything to throw on top that I could find, and finally found just one. It was Strike King Rage Shad. It looks like a big tadpole, big giant ribbon tail. So I rigged it weedless, reedless and weightless Texas rig. I slung it into the woods, essentially, nicking every branch on the way in there, and I drug it out. And before I can get 3 or 4 cranks, one blew up on it and set the hook. It was a big smallmouth. Threw it back, casted, set the hook on it. I caught you can ask Matt Cunningham. I caught probably 15 or 20 fish back to back, just throwing just randomly into the woods. They were just smoking it. And it was funny. We had another angler with us that and this is part of the reason I don't tournament fish. I think I could be really good at it, but I think it would turn too much into work. But we had another angler with us that was a big time tournament fisherman, and I could tell he was getting frustrated. I was like, "Hey man, I've got some there," because he asked me, he's like, "What are you throwing?" I told him, and he's like, "Well, I don't have any of those." I said, "Well, I've got a couple if you want to throw them." He's like, "No, I'm good. I said, "Okay." So and I guess not thinking back now, I feel kind of bad. But me and Matt were just giggling because some of these fish were hit within inches of my boat. First it would startle me, so I would yell and cuss, and then I would giggle because I'm like, this is so dumb, this is ridiculous. And they were all smallmouth. I caught 1 or 2 spots, maybe a couple of largemouth, but the majority of them were smallmouth. So they were hitting and they were just fighting insanely good. And next thing I know, that other guy behind me was like, "F this!" He's like paddling out. He's just gone. And I felt really bad. And after a minute, he came back and was like, "Hey, I'm sorry. I get real competitive." And I was getting frustrated. I was trying to give you some little lure. It's like, I don't care. Hand you my pole. I like it when people catch fish, whether or not I'm catching.
Yeah. That's the fun thing, man. When you're out with your buddies, I mean, there's nothing better than just we razz each other. We're all the time out there just woo. If somebody catches the fish, nobody else has been catching one for a minute.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. You gotta holler and let your boys know you caught one. It's just the right thing to do.
Yeah.
But
and any more with the camera in the boat, if I'm not catching fish, at least I could stop and take pictures of somebody else catching fish.
Yeah.
Thanks, Zach. Appreciate you.
Yeah.
Take really nice pictures.
At least I can do something.
There you go. But no, Matt he's got a legend about him as far as the tough fishing trips, and I think that it doesn't matter. And that legend extends all the way into Kentucky.
Oh yeah, Kentucky, Alabama, Florida.
Yeah,
I mean, if you know Matt, that's his reputation. Like I said, man, it pays off. If he hadn't explored that creek, I wouldn't have gone back there with him and caught 25 smallies back to back.
It sounds like he needs to rig up some off-road tires on his kayak.
He does have full drive, so he makes sure as much as possible to be able to get where he's going.
I feel like we should legitimately have a Coosa HD wall at the factory of all Matt's used Coosa HDs, all flipped over so you can see the bottoms.
See the ribbons being drawn.
That would be we could just call it. I mean, it should be like the entryway. When you come in the doors to HR, just line the whole wall there.
One of those tunnels like football players run through.
Yeah. Call it the Cunningham Hall. We'll put that in tomorrow. I like that. But no, so Tennessee fishing. If one of these listeners was to say, "Man, Tennessee sounds like a really cool place," and it is. They've got tons of water, tons of places from east to west, north to south. There is a place for you to fish in Tennessee. Where would you tell them to go?
Man, like I said, right below Center Hill Dam. It's just, especially if you have sonar, man. It's like treating you don't even have to mark fish. All you gotta do is mark structure, and you're gonna find a walleye. You're gonna find just even anything. Within 200 yards of the dam, if I stay right there, The species I've caught, like I said, walleye, all black bass, brooks, browns, and rainbows. I've caught gar, striper, all varieties of sunfish, sturgeon. Caught a sturgeon. That was pretty awesome. When the water's running pretty hard out there, I've caught those stripers. I've caught seagull. That was unintentional. Just catfish. It's drum. I've caught drum out there. Carp.
Oh, yeah.
It's just there's so much bait out there, man. That if you don't catch something, you're doing something wrong. It's just I mean Matt was catching walleye off of Ned rigs, which is kind of funny because I always wondered about that. If that was a fluke. And there's a walleye guy up north. Is it Brett McComas or is it Jared McComas? We used to have a McComas on our team, so I forget.
I don't remember,
but I think it might be Brett McComas. He's a big walleye guy up north. But just recently I saw him post a blog. It was like Ned rigs for walleyes. I was like, holy crap, Matt was already doing that. And he was fishing for smallmouth, but he or just any bass. He was laying into the walleye pretty heavy with that Ned rig.
Now, so obviously, night fishing, day fishing. What's somebody's not into the river scene? Which granted, not every kayaker is into the river scene. As far as flatwater, Tennessee, what do you think the best? What would you send somebody for flatwater?
So it's funny you say that. When they're not generating, it is flat water below the dam. So there's an area we call the pond. That's on the sluice gate side, which hardly ever runs. But that is flat water. The generators are on the other side. The generators are probably a third of the dam as far as length. That's probably. Again, me personally, probably because I haven't been skunked there in forever. Would be my suggestion. But honestly, man, Dale Hollow is magical. Especially for walleye, or green lighting in general. One of my buddies green lights out there, and he never doesn't catch fish.
Dale Hollow dance that way.
But no, Tennessee's blessed in general. All those species, muskie, they're all within a 20-minute drive of me. So as far as fishers go, definitely in a really blessed area. Now,
Vincent says my fishing partner.
Oh, I love him to death, man. That's another. That is a cool thing about not only working at JK, working in the industry. So we used to sign our names on boats. We had little tags, and after we got done building them, we would sign, built by, in my case, Charlie P. That's in the boat.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I took a lot of pride in my boats, and it started getting noticed. And I met Vincent at one of the. He used to be one of our team members. I met him at Summit, and he was like, "I want you to build mine and my son's boat." And I was like, "I'm not really sure how that works, but yeah, I'd be glad to." I'd forgotten about it. A month or two goes by, and my supervisor comes up. He's like, "Hey, I've got a special request. I have a job order here that's got your name on it." And it was Vincent's boat, and I was like, "Holy crap! Like that was the coolest thing ever." And it turned into, obviously now he's one of my best friends. It turned into this, super awesome relationship. It was kind of cool, I guess the journey and the life of those boats, because as soon as it came out of the oven, I took a picture and I sent it to Vincent. And when I got it on my table, I sent him a picture. Halfway through the build, I sent him a picture, and then when I got done building it, I sent him a picture. It was off to shipping, and as soon as they got those boats on the water, he sent me a picture. So it was like,
that's pretty cool.
Birth of this kayak.
That was very cool.
Yeah, it's cool, super super cool. And like I said, he's one of my best friends now. So that would have never happened. If it weren't for JK and being part of this industry. And that's a big thing I noticed too is as far as the industry in general, regardless of brand, man, everybody's we're all pretty tight. There's a lot of camaraderie. The guy that got me into striper fishing, he's a wieldy guy. Chris Bryant, phenomenal fisherman. I've fished with guys below the dam. Some of the first few kayak fishermen, Ben Meredith, he's a Hobie guy. I fished with him a few times. Super super cool. When we're on the water together, we're all the same. That's what I love about being part of this industry. We all give each other crap, but it's it's all in love. I really enjoy it. I don't think they'll have to kick me out. I'm not going anywhere.
I agree, and you're a testament to one of the things that I think is really great about Jackson Kayak, and it's kind of awarded me the same opportunity that is if you work hard and you do your job and you try and you're passionate about it, the sky's the limit.
Yeah, no. It's definitely pays off.
Yep. And there again, you said the industry is big, but the industry is small.
Yeah. And
that's a very very beautiful thing, especially people that have like Vincent that have come and gone from our team. It's you never know when you're going to be cruising Facebook and you see his name pop up. He throws you a like on Facebook, Instagram, or whatever. I mean, it is a small family, and it's really probably one of the coolest things about kayak fishing. And we're just dirtbag paddlers. We're still in that from the whitewater people. Whitewater people can't have that no more. We're taking it.
I don't know, man. I think they're still the OG dirtbags, and Matt Jameson in the office. He'll tell you all day. He's a dirtbag at heart. Prideful dirtbag. One of the dirtiest dirtbags. I love him. He's a super super awesome dude.
Zach's probably. I don't think Zach's familiar with the whole dirtbag. I don't think I've ever explained that one to him.
I don't think so. I think that's a new one.
You're gonna have to explain to Zach exactly what the dirtbag means.
I'll let you do that. I'm not super familiar. I just know that's what the whitewater dudes call themselves.
Yeah. Well, I think our definition is probably very much the same. We just want to go fishing. I mean, we don't need a tournament. We don't need, we can, just like I said, go down to the river, hang out, or the lake and hang out. We just really don't. I mean, tournaments are fun. Everybody needs to try one at some point, or, if that's not your passion out there and just go catch fish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I fished with a buddy, a couple bass boat tournaments, and like I said, it wasn't for me. I took the joy out of it. Cast a handful of times. Run and gun, cast some more, run and gun. I'm like, I don't like doing this. It was too much like work.
It's a different game. Chris Funk says they can keep the flippy dippy boats. I just want to fish. Now Funk wants to. That's a whole nother conversation. Funk wants to come down and do the Rock Island walleye run.
Man, that's the weirdest thing to me. Like, he keeps saying he's never caught walleye.
I know we've got to make this happen. I kind of want to do it. I kind of want to be there.
It's gotten pretty popular, unfortunately. It's you can show up and there'll be 30 other boats around you, within a 200-yard stretch. So unfortunately, it's gotten fairly populated. You can still catch fish. especially if you bring new techniques. I'm not going to say exactly what it is, but we found a technique again that they use up north. I was looking up some techniques that some old Michiganders use, and I brought it down south and I was smoking them, and nobody else was catching fish. Typically, what they do around here is drop jigs and lift and rip them off the bottom. That works, but we started doing something else, and it was a lot more effective. So yeah, if you can bring different techniques to your local body of water that work for the same species in a different area of the country, definitely pays off.
Well, that's definitely something we need to. We could probably get enough trucks to block Rock Island Ramp.
I don't know.
Jackson Kayak official testing grounds.
Yeah,
the ramp is now closed.
I'm gonna.
I got a
not
probably got a roll of yellow caution tape laying around here somewhere. We could.
Yeah. I got
some. The kids got some sidewalk chalk out here. We can I'll lay down and you can just outline me, and then we'll rope it off with some caution tape. And
well, you know what we could do now that Jameson's famous is we could get a cardboard cutout of Jameson Redding and set it at the ramp, and it would be like Wally rolled in and go, "Hi, I'm Jameson Redding. Ramp's closed
today.
Hey guys, it's Jameson Redding."
Yeah, that's what we do. We'll blame it on it. Probably not great for marketing, but
I think it'd work. I mean, that sounds like something we would come up with in the marketing department, honestly. Cardboard
Squatch.
Cardboard cutouts of Jameson Redding with a boat, with a gnar. He's got his arm around a gnar. See, now it's marketing.
Yeah.
You just press the button and it says, "Hi guys, I'm Jameson Redding."
Yeah, we'll talk to him about that. See if he's down.
But man. Charlie, it is. We've made it an hour, and if I go much past an hour, James fires me for at least a week. So, and you've been gone. Let's cruise through here and see if we have any questions from the audience. I've seen a few coming in. We've got a viewer from Puerto Rico tonight. I'm not gonna Remy.
Was
Remy
Pesca?
Yeah,
it is.
Dude, he's got this sick. Look him up on YouTube. He catches a tarpon out of the gnar, and the thing is going berserk.
Oh man!
But yeah,
I need to watch that one
here, dude. Definitely check it out. I watched that like 15 times in the past 2 days.
I haven't seen this.
Tarpon are awesome, regardless, especially
it's insane.
Stephen Tucker coming to us from YouTube tonight. He wants to know. He says, "Why is a Jackson kayak the best one out there?" Well, it's because of people like Charlie.
Yeah, honestly, regardless of spec and all that, not me, the entire team. I'm a builder. Matt Cunningham's a builder. He was a builder. The rest of the folks inside the office paddle. I'm a kayak fisherman. Matt Jameson is whitewater dude. He came off the ovens. So we're homegrown. We're not talking heads. You call us, and it's somebody who's either been in a boat, built a boat, molded a boat, or both. We are the lifestyle. We are what we sell.
We are Jackson Kayak.
If you call me and ask me a question, I don't have a template that I'm reading off of. I'm going to answer your questions based on experience.
Right.
Personal experience. So I think that's the biggest thing that sets us apart. Is that we are what we sell.
Absolutely. There's not a one of us that isn't out there using the boats on a daily basis. Let's see. Jason Cassidy. Oh Lord. He wants to know what your best customer service complaint has been, and go.
Best? Is the best mean the worst?
Let's go with strangest. How about that? Let's do strangest.
We had one person that thought their boat was melting. It was it had white in it. Of course, you get muck on your boat in the white spots, or in general, but it stands out more in the white. But for some reason, they thought that yellowing was their boat melting. I swear my boat's melting. I promise. It's polyethylene. It's not melting. It's made to go in the water. They're like, no, it's melting. Every time I put it on the water, it gets worse. I think it's melting more and more. I'm like, no, it's just funky. It doesn't come off.
Lake funk.
Yeah, it doesn't come off on white, on light colors as much. That's probably one of the strangest ones I've got.
That's a pretty that's
yeah, that's a good one.
And I've never really thought about it, but I guess I could. That discoloration does. I guess.
I don't know. I don't know. They're thinking of like how styrofoam will melt and kind of discolor, or what.
Yeah, I mean,
they swore their boat was melting.
If somebody genuinely didn't know,
you should be able to touch it and realize that the surface hasn't changed.
Yeah, that's little Dawn dish soap goes a long way.
Yeah.
And let's see, Gene Wilson.
Has anybody ever? Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Jack.
That's Stephen Tucker. He said, "Has anybody ever fished a kayak in the big bass tournaments with the bass boats?"
I think a few have. That's relatively new, so I forget who has, for sure. But it is definitely happening right now. I think BASS has tournaments where it's either or, kayak or bass boats.
Very cool.
It's reminiscent of our days fishing the John boat with the bass boats.
Yeah, that was fun. Here's a shout out, Jesse Lesprey. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
He says it was great meeting you and Bridget and everyone at Jackson Kayak at ICAST.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Couldn't have been any nicer and more welcoming. And on top of it, he was the winner of our Orion 35 quart cooler at the booth. So congratulations to you, Jesse.
Yeah, no, he's super, super cool dude. It was fun. He was super excited we were there. He was super excited. Bridget, Jameson, and Jim were there, of course, because they've been on TV. And to me, they're just dudes,
Right.
Even Bridget's the dude. She'll play that. But I forget that they're famous when it comes to the fishing world. And it's kind of funny. It's sort of endearing. He was afraid to approach them, kind of hesitant. He was like, I've seen them on TV. He goes, no, they're just people, like you and me. Go up there and chat with them. But it was super, super cool hanging out with them. Having them in our boats and chatting with us in the booth. But yeah, good to chat with you too, for sure, Jesse. We'll chat more, I'm sure. He works for one of our dealers. We've communicated before. That's another cool thing about these shows, man. Putting faces to names, because before that happens, you're just a mysterious entity behind a computer screen.
Right.
Putting the face of those names really creates a whole different relationship.
And I think that's one of the coolest things about the fishing industry as a whole is, even Kevin Van Dam is accessible in a way at times. You can walk up to him at an event and see him. You can go to Bass Pro and shake his hand. I mean, we're very real people, no matter just because we're on the internet or you're Jameson or Jim or heck, even Bridget's famous. She just won't admit it. Everybody is accessible, and that's very, very neat about the fishing industry.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, Ike came to our booth and we chatted for about a half hour, and he's just a regular dude, a regular dude in a weird wig and sunglasses, but a regular dude, regardless. But yeah, no, for sure, super cool. You never get that, feeling that they're above anybody else. They're just, they're good at what they do, so obviously they're famous. But like I said, just talk with them one-on-one. They're just like you or me.
Yep, absolutely. Well, Charlie, we are going to let you go, and it's Chris Funk says he's going to love that 35. We're going to let you go. We're going to drop you down below. We're going to sign this thing off, and we'll be right back with you, man. Just hold on just a second.
All right, man.
There you go. Yeah, you're a big one.
Scare everybody before they go to bed.
Everybody. All right, guys. That was episode 13, the Orion podcast with our boy Charlie, talking a little bit about stripers, adventure, and iCast.
Yeah, it's good.
It was good.
Stripers, man. Big fish.
Big fish. It's time, Zach.
We're gonna have to venture out of Indiana at some point.
Yeah, tomorrow's good. But anyway, thanks for watching. Remember, you guys can check us out. We will be posting this up on Spotify, Google Podcast, anywhere except iTunes, because we can't figure that out. So anyway,
we're working on it. We haven't figured it out yet.
We're working on it. Check out Orion Coolers. Check out Jackson Kayak. Visit us at jacksonkayak.com. And thank you for watching episode 13. We'll see you in 2 weeks for another Orion podcast. And I will see you on Thursday night, Jackson Kayak Fishing Facebook for Dock Talk. Bye-bye.